Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Great. So it's 12:05. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome to those who have joined to the second office hours for the Lowertown Area Mobility Study. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about congestion in the area, specifically in the Lowertown area. We wanted to use this format as an opportunity to engage with you all, let you ask questions, have a discussion about what you see as some of the pain points and opportunities and issues surrounding traffic congestion today. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren to kind of introduce the team and our, rules and general schedule for the project, or for these office hours. And she's the other. Yeah, go ahead and introduce us.
My name is Lauren Hood, and I'm leading community engagement on the mobility study. As you've met, there was Eric Dreyer. We also have Steve Loveland here, project manager at OHM. Heather Seyfarth, city planner at City of Ann Arbor, and Luke Liu, city project manager at the City of Ann Arbor. So we recognize this might be the first time we're engaging with some of you. So if you have questions that aren't related to what's on the screen, feel free to ask those as well. We also want to get more ideas about how to reach people. So this is the biggest turnout we've had so far for these virtual sessions, and we want to get more people to come. So if you have ideas on how we can reach people or how to engage better during COVID, we'll take those too. So don't feel that you're locked into only talking about what's in the presentation. We want to have a conversation broadly about engagement and about the mobility study. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks. So as I mentioned, this is being recorded. We're going to post this to the project website, so others who may have missed today or weren't able to join can come see what we've talked about. They can listen to the discussion that you all have. And we just want to make this available throughout the life of the project. We've been doing these virtual office hours on a number of projects around the state. It's kind of a way to discuss the issues of the project without meeting face to face. We're still kind of in that social distancing period of very much in the social distancing period. What we're going to do is each session is going to cover a different topic related to the study. And really, we just want to have a conversation with you. We're going to run through a few slides here about what we've seen so far. But if you have questions, want to let us know about anything, you can use the raise your hand function. You can use the chat box, or just speak up. There's not too many of us here today.
And also, if you could you turn your cameras on? It's so impersonal for us to, we're being vulnerable. You're seeing inside our homes. Just if you can, if you're not multitasking, just turn your camera on. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
So we've got 4 of these lined up. Last week we talked about just kind of what the general mobility study is. This week we're going to talk about traffic conditions. In 2 weeks, we will get into bicycle and pedestrian conditions. And then finally, on November 6th, we'll talk about safety conditions. So all these pieces of the mobility puzzle that we want to make sure that we get your input on. So a little bit about a mobility study. It's sort of a broad term, but specific to this project, we're looking at a holistic view of transportation within the Lowertown area. So on the next slide, I'll show kind of the boundaries that we're looking at, but we're really looking to consider all of the folks who are moving through this area. That's cars, that's freight, it's transit riders, it's pedestrians, it's bicyclists, it's old people, young people, everybody. And really the idea is to come up with a set of recommendations that's going to help make traveling around Lowertown easier, safer, and more efficient. So as I mentioned, the study area here is outlined in blue, and this is kind of the main area that we're looking at. And I know those of you who are in Ann Arbor have probably been through this area. You may live here, and some of these intersections are pretty congested during the day. I was calling out a couple of the major traffic generators here. You got U of M Hospital, there's downtown Ann Arbor, there's the Ann Arbor STEAM School, and U of M North Campus. And it's also a major kind of commuter route into town. But again, we're looking specifically at kind of the data surrounding bicycle and bicycle travel and the conditions surrounding that, pedestrian movements, traffic congestion, public transit ridership, roadway safety, and then how to kind of use some design options along the roadway to improve the efficiency of the network. So we're about halfway through the project here. The graphic below kind of shows the general project process. Over the last 8 months or so, we've been really diving into the data analysis piece. So looking at traffic conditions, safety conditions, talking with some project stakeholders, looking at traffic conditions and trying to predict how traffic is going to change in the future. And as we go through the second half of the project, we're going to start to dive into the vision and goals for the project, working with you and others in the community, and translating that into solutions that can be implemented and a final set of recommendations for the city to take moving forward. And so some of the expected outcomes of the study, and we don't know what these are yet. We're still in the process of figuring them out, but we want to identify ways to improve mobility for all the users of the network. That's, as we've mentioned, it's not just drivers, it's cyclists, pedestrians, transit riders, new mobility options, scooters, it's everything. We're going to look at some opportunities to maybe change some travel habits. This is one of the ways that we see as an opportunity to help limit congestion. The graphic below kind of shows what we're thinking here, where maybe it's a mix of working from home and walking and transit and cycling and carpooling and driving yourself. This doesn't mean that you have to do this every day. It's including some of these into your daily travel modes or daily travel habits is really going to help reduce congestion or limit congestion growth. And then looking at some innovative solutions that are coming out that can help improve the way we get through the Lower Town area. So just real quick on what we've seen so far on traffic conditions in Lower Town. There's been a number of high congestion intersections that we've both seen based on our modeling data, and then based on the observations of us just being in the neighborhood. So those orange dots there are kind of the three that we've seen are pretty congested, just from they don't show up on the model, but they appear congested. Some of the others are Plymouth and Barton, out at Whitmore Lake and the off-ramp to Barton Drive and the off-ramp to US 23, Barton Drive and the on-ramp to US 23, Duvarn and Pontiac Trail, and then Division Street and Catherine. So kind of all around the outskirts of the Lower Town area, but generally the major intersections in the community or in the neighborhood. We've done an extensive kind of traffic modeling piece where we've looked at where trips are coming from. And kind of a surprising piece of this is that over half of all the trips that are coming into Lower Town are actually passing through. So it's not an origin or a destination for a lot of the people who are driving in the area. We see that about 20% are coming into Lower Town from other areas, and about 20% are going out. So there's kind of an equal amount of inflow and outflow from the study area. And then really only about 4% of the trips are completely within the Lower Town district or Lower Town area. So, I mean, that's a very high level overview of what we've seen so far, what we've experienced from the technical side. now we want to hear from you, and we've got a set of questions here that we hope you guys can help us answer, shed some light on your experiences, kind of the day-to-day congestion you may see. But I'll leave this up, and we'll have a discussion. So I'll turn it over to Lauren to kind of help facilitate this, and feel free to speak up if you have thoughts or want to shed some light on what you've seen.
Yep. So I see Maria had put a question, it being a direct message, but it said that typically cities prioritize automobile driver needs over other forms of mobility. I feel very much Ann Arbor is like most cities where automobile drivers presume needs are prioritized over other group needs. I know people move in and out of groups, but I'm very concerned about safety for pedestrians and cyclists.
That's a astute observation. And when we talked to some of the bicycling and pedestrian advocates back in January time, they kind of echoed that same thought, and how some of the bike lanes and bike facilities maybe aren't as connected through the Broadway, Maiden Lane area. So if you're trying to get up kind of from the north side of the neighborhood into downtown or over to the hospital, you basically have to mix into traffic. And so one of the things we're going to be looking at once we get into the kind of design phase or the solution phase is how we can make sure that those connections are feasible and can be implemented on the street.
Hey, Maria, can you jump in? Did you have specific concerns about pedestrian and cyclist safety? Are they related to a particular area of the study? Maria?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll try to be brief because I have a lot of feelings on this.
No, let us know why we're here.
So here's my perspective. I live on Barton Drive, very near the intersection to Pontiac Trail. And so your findings in terms of, I assume, pre-COVID traffic patterns, Lower Town being an area where people are going through on their way somewhere and on their way out. And my observed behavior of traffic patterns is that that's definitely the case. People are in a hurry. They want to go. They're going to work probably, maybe visiting somebody at the hospital. And speed is extreme concern to me. I don't know if you did. I know Pontiac Trail has, those monitors there. I would love to see a monitor of speed on Barton Drive once the construction clears up here. I have strong concerns about now that this area will be resurfaced and the expressway exit opening that we will have excessive speeds. I already see excessive speeds right now when technically it's not open to through traffic. People are going in and through there and upwards of, 45 miles an hour and more. So that's what I'm seeing right now. So I guess to just wrap it up here, when you talk about congestion as being something to be avoided, I'm not sure that I feel that way as someone who's trying to walk my kids to school or who wants to bike downtown with children in tow. I don't know that I want big open areas where we try to stop people's movement in their automobiles, or to not stop. So, try to create more lanes and widen them. It makes me very concerned. I already feel unsafe. And it just feels very much like, oh, well, we need to get rid of congestion as potentially being synonymous with, we're going to make it easier for traffic to move through here. And the easier it is, the faster it seems to go. And when you have less drivers, as we see now with people, more working at home and the people who are going, it looks to me, it feels very much like there's faster speeds. Okay, I'll stop. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody want to take a stab at responding? I see Stephen Deering, you put something in the chat.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Maria, what I heard you say is that there are monitors on Pontiac Trail. I'm assuming what you're talking about are those units that have a built-in radar so you can measure vehicle speeds in real time. Is that what you meant by monitors?
Oh, she went back on mute.
Yeah.
Maria, you still there?
Sorry, what was that?
When you talked about monitors being on Pontiac Trail, would I be correct in assuming that what you mean are those units that have built-in radars that can read vehicle speeds as they are passing by and then
Yes,
display?
that's correct.
Okay. So you are correct that there's more than one along Pontiac Trail, and I believe there are not any along Barton Drive, but we can certainly be looking at that as another tool to help with the drivers and their realization of the behavior that they're doing. It's certainly not a placenta or placebo, excuse me. It's just another tool to help, but it's not going to be that silver bullet that will be able to completely control speeds. But it's certainly another tool to be looked at and used on Barton Drive itself.
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, I mean, that's very helpful, and I don't think it's going to solve every problem. I just was interested in, and you've talked about this, I've actually said in other meetings where you talk about how you're looking at designing these roads in instances where there will be changes to the actual road size. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'd like to hear more about the use of whether it's painted markings, which I think potentially I've heard sometimes drivers subconsciously, it's a visual cue for them to slow, or even you know, protected bike lanes. I know that there's a lot of criticism about that because people don't see cyclists immediately in those spaces, but I think it takes time for that kind of infrastructure to become normalized, especially in a community like this where, you know, it's the needs, from my perception, is it's de facto, everybody's always worried about drivers and their ability to get somewhere as fast as possible. So yeah, it's this idea of like, how can we design roads in such a way that there's visual cues or the road itself is narrowed. I would rather see congestion than excessive speeding because we're all residential here. And it seems like a lot of times people don't seem to really think about that.
Thanks, Maria. Luke, I saw you came off mute. Did you also want to chime in there?
Just a little bit. I think that's really a good point. I know that Barton right now is under construction. There was a previous engagement effort as part of that project to look at different cross sections, potentially adding bike lanes, parking removals. So I guess all those discussions are still valid. I mean, and we'll again have opportunity to go through, talk about those options for the Lower Town study. And, you know, it's great to hear from the neighbors, you know, what are the values we're looking for here. Because really, if we look at Barton Pontiac Trail, the intersection, we hear congestion, then we hear speeding issues. So, and sometimes, you know, as the intersection is, it does not really have a huge footprint for expansion. So at some point, you know, when we enter those discussions, the team is going to provide alternatives as to if we are looking into a turn pocket for inbound Barton, what's the impact is going to be for the already existing bicycle lanes there, and whether it's going to really shut the opportunity for any future bicycle lanes there. What's the treatment is going to look like? So I guess all these options are on the table, yeah, we'll have an opportunity to go through that with understanding of their operational impacts.
Thanks, Luke. I saw KJMC.
Yeah, sorry, that's Ken. Yeah. I just wanted to echo what Maria said, and I'd add that I don't think those speed monitors are really doing anything for changing traffic speeds, changing driver behavior, but they're a instant verification for all of us who live in the area that there's rampant speeding, and it's really pretty dangerous at times. There are 2 of those cameras. There's one down by Apple and Pear Streets, and there's one farther up by Manor, I think is where it changed to 25. I think that's a much bigger problem than congestion in the area. The congestion is just very limited times of day, and it's one of the few things that actually slows people down is when there's some congestion. Whereas the speeding is, I bike, walk, and drive in the area. I work on Plymouth, bike to work, I did today, and live up off Barton, actually farther north, Pontiac Trail. I'm actually on Larkspur Street. But the speeding is a much bigger problem that we see where we are, and it's really pretty constant. I'd vote for a lot more traffic calming. Honestly, I've been to places in Europe and bike trips, and we do almost nothing for traffic calming in the US. It's very, very, very limited compared to what they would be doing in France or Germany or something. So I'd like to see a lot of discussion of that. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken. Did you want to respond, Luke? Yeah.
If I may ask a follow-up question about the speeding issues on Pontiac Trail, do you sense any difference in by direction? Just the reason I want to ask the follow-up is that coming inbound direction, we do have the slight down slope. Sometimes I just drive that stretch on purpose, trying to see when do I need to hit the brake, or if I don't do anything, how the vehicle is going to respond. So pretty much coming into town, once we pass through North Sky, if we do not approach or pass that location at a very controlled, like 25 miles per hour speed, then the slope is actually going to drive the speed up quite a bit as we move further along toward Barton. So I know that's a challenge by itself for the inbound direction. I want to hear, I guess, if there's any feedback as to going the other way, if we are also observing speeding issues for outbound.
Yeah, so I was the one who started that one. Let me go ahead and respond. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever, actually. You would think it would, but from what I've seen, people speeding just as fast going up the hill as they are going down. Honestly, I think they pay attention to the speed limit and try very hard to be 10 miles and over approximately that speed limit, whether they're going outbound or inbound. I've had people passing me illegally on the no passing zones going both directions because they want to go faster than the speed limit, and I'm only doing the speed limit. You should study it. I mean, obviously you can do traffic studies and see what the speeds are, but from my experience, it's a problem both ways.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you seen that problem get worse since kind of the pandemic has hit, where fewer people are driving? I know I've seen that around the Detroit area.
I've lived here since 1994, I think, and I haven't noticed any difference because of the pandemic. The only time I've seen a difference is when there's enough of us in town who live here who are doing the speed limit to slow down the people who are driving from out of town who want to go much faster than the speed limit. And I haven't really noticed a change because of the pandemic, but from my perspective, it's usually whenever there's light traffic, the speeds go way up. So the fact that there's light traffic now, well, yeah, the speeds are high now, but it's not really any different from other times, other periods of time in history, you know, past 20 years, 30 years. Whenever the traffic congestion is low, the speeds are very high. And it hasn't really changed that I can tell.
Maria, I see you unmuted yourself again.
No, I'm just expressing all of my emphatic agreement with everything he's saying. It's absolutely consistent with my observation, and I thought I was the only one who was getting passed on Pontiac, going the speed limit. It's absolutely wild, and it's very unsafe. There's a lot of people who are walking now, as we all, many of us are during this time, wanting to get out. Children are out, learning to ride bikes. It's terrifying.
Thank you. Okay, I see that Lydia has a hand up. Go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Lydia. I live on Barton Drive, very close to the M14 on-ramp, and I can really relate to everything that Maria and Ken are both saying. Those are my experiences as well. And I just wanted to maybe add a little bit more detail. The concerns that I have, just living here, Barton Drive, where I live, it's a pretty main road, but it's also, within a neighborhood. And so my main issues here are the high volume of traffic during rush hour, and the drivers not observing speed limits, which I know Maria and Ken both already brought up. Because I live here, I sometimes when I drive here, I set my cruise control to 25 miles per hour and just go 25. And there's been I've experienced some road ragey behavior where people will pass me on this stretch of the road where it's pretty narrow, cars coming on. So that's one issue. The second one is about huge trucks on this road, and I'm not referring to it right now during construction, obviously. I'm talking about everything prior. This is a no truck route. There's a huge sign that says, no trucks. And there's, double, like 2 trailer semi trucks, just like driving in front of the house. So I would like to see that limit kind of enforced. And one of the reasons is because, there is no sidewalk on this stretch of Barton Drive. So walking along this road, whether it's even me by myself, an able-bodied adult, or with children, or trying to ride my bike out of my house to get to the boardwalk, it is just not safe to be on the shoulder, especially when it gets dark out, so pretty early in the day, in the winter, obviously, or on a not a perfect weather day. Those are some of the issues. And then, I've been biking a ton, I think like everybody during the pandemic. So I've had a chance to experience this area, both on bike and on foot. And the one comment I want to make is about bike lanes in this area and in Lower Town in general. I know on Barton Drive, a bike lane is being put in on the one side of the road. And it's not a protected bike lane. It's a bike lane that's only indicated by, it's painted on the road. And we know that, research has shown that these are not safe for bikers. They make biking less safe as compared to nothing actually being there. So that's the one thing, if we're thinking about bike lanes, we should really think about making protected bike lanes that are separate from the main road, especially where there's, huge trucks barreling down them. And the second thing is, I don't quite understand the logic of only putting a bike lane on the one side of the road. What are bikers supposed to do when they're heading, the opposite direction? So those are kind of my main observations. I think everything else that Maria and Ken have said, I echo that as well. I don't necessarily need you to respond to everything I said right now, but I just hope you take it into consideration as as this project kind of develops and you come to your conclusions. Oh, actually, no, there is one more thing. One of the things is obviously, this is the main access point to the highway. Now that Barton Drive has been closed for construction, I would be curious to see if you had studied how the driving patterns have changed to kind of see how cars are getting to downtown when Barton Drive is closed. I'm only asking this because I would like to see the city consider another highway access point to take some of the pressure off of Barton Drive. So that's my last point. Thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Anyone want to take a stab at responding?
I didn't necessarily need a response. It was just, my observations that I hope you consider as you come up with the recommendations for resolving all these issues that we have in Lower Town.
Got it. Thank you.
I know that we did notice a lot of those issues related to the the bike lanes and bike access and pedestrian access during the road safety audit that we did. You know, I think there isn't a sidewalk. It's hard to access the boardwalk area. And there are quite a few people who live along Barton Drive there that would presumably like a sidewalk to get to some of the other parts of the neighborhood.
I had a question.
Prevented sidewalks in the past was the funding model, right? Or like the existing funding model where the homeowners are assessed, especially assessed for the cost of the sidewalk. When we know sidewalks benefit entire communities, not just the direct homeowners who actually have the sidewalk in front of the house. So I'm hoping this will change, you know, with the November election, but that's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
The bike lane that you mentioned on one side of the road, is that the new design on Barton, Luke?
That is, yep. With the resurfacing project, they are painting it on the north side of Barton Drive.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that we have done an inventory of the sidewalks and the bike facilities throughout the Lower Town area, and we will have a recommended plan for the area. I wasn't aware that there was a bike lane added on Barton at this point.
Yes, but it's only on the one side of the road. If it had been like a separate bike lane, you know, you could have two directions passing each other. This is just on the one side.
Right, that was put in, I guess, as part of the water main and resurfacing. If I heard correctly, I guess, you know, from other meetings, there was some discussion about keeping or removing on-street parking on the south side of Barton. And, you know, that has something to do with not adding in the inbound direction bicycle lane for now as part of the resurfacing project. You know, then for the Lower Town study, all options are available. And to Steve's follow-up question, that current construction on Barton, we're also adding crosswalks, at least I think one location. So I can find information on that and, you know, enter into this project.
Great.
Great, yeah, and then just, you know, I know I made this point already, but I'd be curious to see if you had studied the traffic patterns of, you know, after Barton Drive has been closed these past few months, to see how traffic has, you know, found alternative ways of getting to downtown, to see how we can promote those more to take the load off of Barton Drive.
That's a great point. So, you know, the short answer is a disappointing one. We have not. In general, staff have been tracking, as you know, what's the impact, the overall impact from the shutdown due to pandemic. We're following the patterns. Now, in general, what we're seeing is the morning peak is gone, and we end up with a very spread peak period in the afternoon that starts from shortly after lunch and lasts through like 5:30. Overall volume, we're back to about 80%. But you know, that's not direct response to your question, but I did take the note down, and that's something we have some general tool or data source we can take a look, trying to see if there's any travel time changes along other corridors or other roads that may serve, you know, as users detour choices.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Paul, I see you came off.
Hi. Yep. So I have a couple of things. First off, I'm Paul Sandstrom with The Ride. In topics of congestion, the only areas where I've really noticed a big issue for our buses with congestion is at the Broadway and Moore intersection, and then also down at Plymouth and Maiden Lane. And obviously Plymouth and Maiden Lane is a lot of people trying to get to and from the hospital. The Broadway and Moore one, I'm not really sure if there's anything that can be done about the congestion there. On some of the other subjects mentioned, the speeding on Pontiac Trail and passing and no passing zones, I know we've noticed it where a bus will pull over to let somebody off in a no passing zone and a car will ignore those solid double yellow lines and fly around the bus, which causes a safety issue for our riders because they're not always getting off on the same side of the street that they need to walk down. And then I've heard it mentioned several times, the protected bike lanes. On Barton Drive, I think it's a fantastic idea. On Plymouth Road, or on Pontiac Trail, though, it would provide a major issue for our passengers with disabilities in terms of boarding and deboarding the buses, which is something that we've noticed in some of the other areas where we've had even the temporary downtown Healthy Streets project where they've taken some of the lanes away. It does create a issue for some of our passengers in wheelchairs getting on and off the bus. So that would be my concern with Pontiac Trail having a protected bike lane, is those disabled passengers being able to access the bus stops that they need. So that was really all of the 2 cents I had.
Can I ask one question about the protected bike lanes?
Of course.
So thinking about the protected bike lanes on, like Pontiac Trail, for instance, or even Plymouth Road, right? They don't have to be exactly adjacent to the street and separated by a barrier. They could be, several feet in. Like right now when I bike along Plymouth Road, I take, there's that I guess it's a sidewalk, right? It's not right next to the road. It's maybe 15 feet in. So maybe when thinking of these protected bike lanes, I don't think they necessarily have to be touching the road. They could be divided by like a grass strip, and hopefully that would help, all of the passengers, those able-bodied and with disabilities, travel safely.
The only issue that would come from that is there's certain regulations for slope degrees when putting for accessibility to bus stops. And so if you have a protected bike lane next to grass, you have to have a platform area for that wheelchair user to be able to get to access where the bus stop would be. And there are a lot of slope regulations. There's a lot that has to be taken into consideration for that kind of, for ADA accessibility. It wouldn't be a terrible idea if there's the space to make those types of slope adjustments between the areas.
And I guess to get to Maria, you had a question about a design solution. There are opportunities and there are ways to design protected bike lanes in such a way that they don't, they minimize the conflict between transit riders and the cyclists. It's a little bit more of a heavy infrastructure lift. So it's, kind of adding a floating bike lane is kind of what, or floating bus stop is what they call it, where it's pushed out into the street. And then you have kind of a raised platform where wheelchairs and other folks can easily access that. But again, that's something that we can look at and can consider for budgeting purposes and if there's space to do it. I know the city of Detroit has been working on some of those around town, and it's a design solution that's out there and could be a opportunity.
Great. I don't see any more hands up.
Well, this is Barbara Lucas. I guess I should raise my hand. Can you hear me?
That's fine. Yep, go ahead.
I'm so sorry I joined late. I couldn't get home in time. Is there only 6 people on the call? Is that right?
Yep, the rest are consultant team members.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I feel terrible because I want to know what all was said, but I ride my bike nearly every day through the area because I live pretty much in Lower Town. And so I have a lot of opinions and thoughts. Geez, I wouldn't know where to start. We, as you all know, the area, I just don't know what you're going to do about that one area that's so terrible at going down Division, but what you've done so far is a huge help, like huge, and I just really appreciate it. People going down that hill from town down Division go really fast, and anything we can do to slow them down. Like personally, I think what we need are buildings on the right side instead of those open parking lots. And I know that's University of Michigan property, but if we could convince them to, you know, when they do build there, to have the buildings have the parking behind and some kind of pedestrian friendly area in front, so that that area feels less like just a pass-through Zoom type of thing. Is this the kind of stuff you're interested in, or should I?
Yeah, no, lay it on us.
All right. I mean, I originally was hoping they would do a roundabout there at Plymouth, Pontiac Trail, and Maiden Lane. That would have made a huge amount of sense to me. I've done, you know, being that I'm a bike rider, a lot of people say, oh, you don't want a roundabout, but in Europe, they have wonderful roundabouts for that feel very safe for bicyclists. So I know it can be done because I've ridden bikes there a lot. Yeah, I'm open to changing my travel habits. It is hard to take a longer route when you're on a bike. So that's the one thing that makes it a little hard, you know, because chances are you're going to say, well, to be safer, you're going to have to go around a different way. Like, for instance, I have gone on the sidewalk to town up Division because there hasn't been a bike lane going the right direction. Well, now that you have it in the right direction, it's fabulous for me, keeping me off the sidewalk. The only problem is that the red lights are facing the other way, the traffic lights. So that's really confusing. Once I hit a traffic light, I'm like, oh, I can't see what, you know, so there would need to be a way to see what the other people are seeing in terms of the traffic light. I don't know how you rectify that. The speed bumps on Division have arrows pointing the wrong ways, which confused me at first. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sorry, no. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, you know how on Division you have that nice double two-way bike path? Well, there's some speed bumps and there's these arrows that look kind of like sharrows or something. And the one pointing north, or would that be east or west? Well, anyway, the one pointing the way I'm going is pointing the wrong way, and the one going the other way is pointing the wrong way. They should be flipped. And it's not a big deal, but at first I was like, oh my God, am I in the wrong lane? And I've seen these speed bumps with the correct arrow direction on them. So I don't know if somebody was just not thinking when they painted the arrows or what.
Got you. Yeah. That's great feedback. And I want to follow up on one thing that you mentioned. There is something that we changed recently that you really liked. Is that the healthy street on street, you know, with reduction of one travel lane and turning that into a bi-directional bicycle track? Is that what you are referring to?
Well, anything you do for bicyclists and pedestrians, I love. So I think you're talking about the one that goes down Division, right? And over the bridge?
From Division, then across the bridge, on the bridge, on Broadway.
Yeah.
And
that's great. It's a little hard knowing what to do when you get to the bottom of the hill, because see, I need to turn left at Wright Street or Swift, because I live on Wright Street. And I'm a little concerned because if I stop there, a bicyclist behind me coming down the hill might be like, uh-oh, you know, she's slamming on the brake, or, you know, she's stopping and I didn't know she was stopping. So there's a few little kinks to work out. I'm not sure how. And I also wanted to say that I don't know what your thoughts are in the future for this, but that Swift Street blockage, I think could be, that area I think could be turned into a pedestrian park, because I live on Wright Street and that street is not needed. That block down the hill is not needed for cars, and it could overlook the new DTE area if they were to trim out the invasive species in the trees there. And it would be such a fabulous pedestrian friendly pedestrian park. And so I really applaud you getting that started by at least temporarily blocking that off to cars.
Thanks, Barbara. It looks like Maria concurs with that idea. I'm also seeing from Ken, I think the assumption is that if you're a cyclist, the thing that you want is protected bike lanes. So Ken is saying he's not fond of them, except in the instance where the protected bike lanes has the periodic breakaway plastic poles. It would be great to get the motorists out of the bike lanes and passing at the required 5-foot distance, but the protected lanes end up full of debris and without chances to move out of the way when needed. Ken also agrees with I think it was Barbara's comments about roundabouts. And Lydia has shared in the chat some links to good examples of protected bike lanes. Well, we're coming up on 10 minutes to. I think we'll open it up for any more closing comments, and then we want to lay out our schedule moving forward. Does anybody have any final thoughts for this conversation?
I want to clarify on the suggestion about pedestrian mall in the area. So you're talking about the section of Swift in between Wright and Pontiac Trail. Is that correct? From the map, I can see, if this is correct, there's not any driveway access there. So residents on Wright, the access would actually come from Longshore.
I'm not exactly Pontiac Trail. It's overlooking the Cascades. That part is Swift.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I lost the conversation when you were talking about what I was talking about with those bollards. Does that make sense? They're the ones that you can see in a few places in town where it's just a white pole, plastic pole that sticks up. And if you actually run into that, it just falls down or breaks away. Those from my experience aren't as bad because you have lots of opportunities between those to get out of the bike lane if you need to for various reasons. So those don't strike. I mean, we've all talked about that in our family, and if the problem is a lot of cyclists want the physical barrier aspect of it, and we don't. We absolutely don't want the physical barrier. We don't want the separation. What we'd really like is just the traffic speeds and the safe passing distance to be where they're supposed to be to encourage people to bike. For us,
Thanks, Ken. Okay, it looks like that's everybody. Eric, do you want to lay out the schedule for the rest of these conversations? We're every
Sure.
other Friday.
Yeah, and I guess Barbara, you had you apologize for being late. This is being recorded and will be posted on the website, so you can go back and see the first half an hour that you missed.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back here to our schedule. In 2 weeks, we have another office hours, and we're going to specifically talk about bike and pedestrian conditions. I know we hit on a lot of that today, but if you have friends, neighbors, others in your circles who want to voice their input and weigh in on this piece, please tell them about it and have them come. And then the final office hours will be the first week of November. And we're going to talk specifically about safety. So again, we hit on that a little bit today, but we're going to dive into the kind of safety aspects, what we can do to help improve pedestrian, bike, vehicle, transit rider safety in the area. So yeah, again, these are being recorded. They'll be posted. You can forward the link on to your network, and if there's any, I guess, opportunities for us to reach out to other groups, please let us know. I'll put Luke's email here at the end. Oh shoot. I think you guys can see this, but our project website is a2gov.org/lowertown. Luke, who's the city project manager, can answer any questions or forward those questions on to us, our team. And if please let your networks know. We want to get as much engagement as possible on these. With that, unless there's any other questions, we'll let you all go and get back to your Friday.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys for holding those.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.